I mean, like, if you have to take a shit, take a shit.
I know, but it's like, I don't know if I can actually get it all the way out. Are you recording this?
All right, welcome to... What is the name of our show?
$2 steak.
Are you serious?
Colon, a wrestling podcast.
$2 steak, colon, a pro wrestling podcast.
There you go.
What's happening, guys? What? Tell me about your weekends right now. Tell me what happened. How are you guys since the last time I saw you? Because the last time I saw you, we were getting over, we had 2 weeks of vomiting.
Yep.
Is there any vomit updates?
I successfully rode into Uber last night twice and didn't vomit.
Good.
Yeah.
What about you? Did anybody witness any vomiting this weekend?
No vomiting, but I successfully did not kill Tolbert's dog while he was having fun at a wedding.
Oh, there you go.
Vomiting did occur at the post
So
post alumni match social for us.
Not you though, right?
Not me, of course. No, I will not throw out any names, but Showtime, you know what you did. You threw
Showtime.
Tell me about, wasn't there a fight at a bar Friday night as well? Somebody chipped a tooth.
Oh my god!
I want to hear about that. Please,
a chair.
Please.
Oh, a chair.
Yeah,
chair shots, huh?
It was chair shots, yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so basically, essentially what happened was these two individuals.
I know
names.
one of them.
Oh, yeah.
He's spelling it out with his hands.
Yeah.
I just don't want
he was the third party. All right, I'm hearing the second angle. You were there, though.
I was there.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was there. I walked in and I saw this person about to get dropped on his head. He took a German suplex and he was about to get dropped on his head.
Wait, you walked in to the thing?
I walked in and saw that. Yeah, that was the first thing I saw. And then eventually I figured out what happened. They were fighting over a chair.
Were you taking notes?
A chair? I thought it was a chipped tooth.
No, I'm saying they were fighting over a chair. Like, basically one person was already sitting down there. The other person took the chair.
And then the third party came in.
Yeah. You're hold on. So those two were fighting over the chair.
Right.
And one of them let go. Mm-hmm. Chair comes back, hits him right in the tooth.
Right.
Shatters that tooth. Literally in half.
Clean across.
In a hair, clean across. Yep.
Did you see
clean
it?
across?
I did not know he got a root canal Saturday morning.
Yes, he did.
So that's why he didn't play, I guess.
No, he played.
No, he played.
It's rugby, dude.
Rugby.
Yeah,
All right,
he's fine.
let him tell the story.
Anyway, so they're fighting over the chair. He notices that his chip is in half right now, and he freaks out. Literally jacks said person up, and Tommy comes in.
Oh, God!
Tommy comes in. He doesn't care. Tommy comes in and gives that person a fucking German suplex and almost basically breaks their neck.
In the middle of the restaurant.
In the middle of the restaurant. Like, literally on the outdoor patio.
Anyway, so, back to professional wrestling podcast. Any wrestling things? I know Tolbert got to go out of town this weekend. He got to see some NASCAR things, which that's a big deal for you.
It was awesome, man. So we're in Winston-Salem, Katie and I, for the wedding of two good friends of mine, Gwen and Aaron. Congratulations. So had a little bit of time to kill, and just so happened the Richard Childers Racing Museum was right down the street. So
and your little redneck chub just started growing.
Yeah, it was awesome. So Aaron, myself, and the groomsmen, we all grew up on NASCAR. And went in there and checked it out. It's all of Earnhardt's cars that have won championships and been in big-time races.
That's pretty cool.
And there's one you can sit in and actually take pictures. But yeah, all Earnhardt's championship cars, and they have all the old-school races playing, of the moments on screens.
That's
and on the
cool.
audio. Yeah, and like the trailers there. Some of Kevin Harvick's cars are there as well. And it's just really cool, man.
Where was this at?
This is in Winston-Salem,
Nice.
Outside of Winston-Salem. So
cool.
It's in the cut, but it's cool. But I actually got to sit in one of Earnhardt's cars. They let you sit and take a picture. Yeah, it's awesome.
Badass, man.
When I was a kid, I really hated Winston-Salem.
I didn't hate. I thought you were gonna say NASCAR.
No. So when I was a kid, I
I
hated.
was about to jump over the table.
No, I wasn't gonna jump over. As a kid, I was forced to watch it. It was on, and you wanted to watch other things.
I always napped during that.
And as you learn to appreciate it as you get older. But in my hometown, there was NASCAR, there was racing, and there was wrestling.
Because I'm rich in ring prowess, flush with technical skill, and extremely well off when it comes to wrestling ability.
They do interviews, veins bulging out the neck. Mock outrage, or is they really vexed. Anybody's guess. Facts don't matter, make you twist and shout. Much beating in the chest. Popcorn buttered, feet up, eyes glued to the set. It never gets old like pro wrestling for NES.
All right, so let's talk about professional wrestling today on the tie-up. Today on the tie-up, our subject is what makes for a good promo. What gets you to buy in to this wrestler, to this wrestling match? What is going to make you pay for that ticket, boys?
I think it starts with conviction. I think you have to have a certain level of conviction to maintain a crowd and capture them and keep them going.
So they have to believe in what they're saying.
They have to believe it.
Their character, they have to go
They
balls.
have to play that character a little bit. I think they have to be that character. Like, Bruiser Brody was great because I think he was that character a little bit. Like, that was his alter ego.
Right.
And whenever he stepped into that ring or whenever he stepped into that stadium, he was that person.
That's
He
pretty cool,
believed
yeah.
it. So
I think you hit on it. Like, the first thing I have here is character. Like, you have to be who you think you are. You got to be charismatic. You don't have to necessarily be well spoken like we talked about last week, but passion, depth, and kind of understanding. I want to really believe that person is going to do whatever they're saying they're going to do.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I like a lot of the old school guys, the classics, but one of the newer guys like Samoa Joe, he actually scares me when he comes out.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, like I get the chills, and when he gets on the mic, he starts yelling, and this actually involves Samoa Joe. I like it when the wrestlers bring some real life stuff out that you've been on Twitter, some little things gone down. Like, I remember one time Samoa Joe comes out, Jeff Hardy's in the ring with a bunch of wrestlers. And he's like, "Oh, what is this, an AA meeting?" He just gets like a deep dig. And, a lot of people don't know sometimes the stuff they're saying is actually going on in the locker room. So I love it when they actually build some heat and make their crowd go, "Ooh," because
they know.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of interesting. You bring it up like that. Back in the 70s and 80s, when there weren't the dirt sheets, when there weren't a lot of people knowing about the inner workings of professional wrestling, their characters were a lot, I wouldn't say more subdued, but they didn't have to go that way.
They didn't have to go there.
They didn't have to go that way to build that heat. And you can kind of see that evolution once the 90s hit in the late 90s when the Montreal Screwjob happened. That's almost like a tipping point where people start realizing that maybe what they're seeing on TV isn't what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You see this documentary, Wrestling with Shadows, and you kind of saw the inner workings of what happened. And then with the proliferation of internet and high-speed internet and people being able to go on and look at these people that are feeding this information to your Dave Meltzers, your Brian Alvarez, you can kind of see that they have to integrate a little bit more of that to blur the line a little bit more. When you blur that line is when the people start wanting to buy those tickets nowadays. It's kind of weird that way.
So to kind of pull off that, so that's what they have to do nowadays. But even back in the day, if you take it outside of wrestling, so like Muhammad Ali would cut amazing promos, and because he's passionate and he's well spoken, and you kind of felt how he was gonna go about it, and you compare that to the terrible events and promos that they had for the McGregor and Mayweather fights.
Right, it was
and it's
awful.
just them calling each other fags and stuff, and it's like, all right, guys, step it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's where I think because McGregor's a good shit talker, but he's not he can't cut a good promo.
Well, it also takes two to tango, and Mayweather not a good.
No, he's a good boxer. He's terrible.
Not a
at
good
everything else.
promo.
Not a good
promoter
promo.
or whatever. I don't know.
And it's funny that you bring up Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, kind of. There's been a bunch of interviews with him, and he kind of based his shit talking from Gorgeous George and from Buddy Rogers.
Buddy Rogers, yeah.
Buddy Rogers and Gorgeous George were kind of like what he saw, and he's like, you know what? People are wanting to pay to see this guy get his ass kicked.
Yep.
If I do it like that, I'm going to bring in more people and more money into my fights and promote it like that. So he was a very smart businessman when it came to that.
Intelligent.
I miss the old days of the managers. The managers that you don't see that a lot nowadays.
you
Like
really
Brock
don't.
Lesnar.
You see one.
Yeah.
And his name is Paul Heyman.
Zelina Vega's one too.
I like
She does good. Yeah, she,
I like
she's
Zelina.
But I miss those days, you know. I'm drawing a complete. Who's Macho Man's manager? Fucking
Miss Elizabeth?
Miss Elizabeth. No,
Sensational Sherry.
never mind. Anyway,
What were you?
what's his name? Glasses, long hair. I'm gonna look like an idiot.
Oh, Mouth of the South? No.
Jimmy Hart.
Yeah, Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart. Why was it drawing a blank on that? Yeah, I miss those days. You know, just they were almost more outlandish than some of the wrestlers were, and they're so good on the mic because that's what they did every night. And they actually traveled with these guys, and they'd work on their program together.
Sometimes I feel like they would build more heat than the actual wrestler.
Yeah, like Jim Cornette. We watch those matches all the time.
Yeah.
Jim Cornette, like everyone wants to kill him.
Oh yeah.
And the fun thing about Jim Cornette, and when he was getting paydays, they were 3 equal pay. So like
Really?
he was getting paid the exact same amount as Dennis Condrey and as Bobby Eaton because he was just as much of a reason those people were buying those tickets
As they were.
Well, and sometimes they probably use the managers if the wrestlers themselves aren't good at
Right.
doing it because you have a finite number of seconds to tell a story and create whatever kind of feeling or passion you want in your crowd. And the guys that can do that in 90 seconds, they probably deserve, because without that, you don't have butts in the seats. You're not selling tickets and merch and all that sort of stuff.
Paul Heyman's phenomenal.
Dude, he's amazing.
Oh God, yes, yeah.
He's like an old school Shakespearean like orator, where he comes out here, he tells his story, he's able to keep you compelled the whole time. There's not that cadence that a lot of professional wrestling has fallen into, and the what chant kind of ruins it. There's that cadence of people kind of remembering their lines, and they say their line, pause, what? They say another line, pause, what?
Well, that's what you got. So I actually made a note about this. So I think, not to get into current wrestling too much, but I think if you watch old wrestling, it was all taped promos. And so you have no audience, you have an infinite number of takes, you can get it right and get your message there. And what happens when they do those in-ring promos is you can see, like Ronda Rousey particularly, but you can see some wrestlers, Bobby Lashley occasionally, get knocked off their and they kind of lose it, and it pulls you out of it. Mm-hmm. So, and that's where Daniel Bryan a couple months ago,
it was about 2 months ago.
He shut down the what chant. And it was epic because you're like, oh my God, this guy knows what to do and he's impassioned and he just shut up a crowd of 25,000 people. Yeah. And I kind of wish they would maybe go back to that because it really does. If you Ronda Rousey, every time she would talk, she looked like she was going to cry. Yeah. And it's just not believable at that point.
It's a little tough to have somebody that was working, UFC. Where maybe UFC nowadays is a little bit more promo based.
Yeah, I didn't want to shit on her.
No.
It's just the scope of it because I think we've lost. And this is me, Greenhorn. The Attitude Era guys maybe not have been the best wrestlers, but they were the best talkers. And you get the guys now who are amazing wrestlers, and half of them can't carry a storyline.
Well, how important do you think being a good promo is? Is it a 50-50 thing where you can be a good promo and a good wrestler? You could be a mediocre wrestler but a good promo?
Well, I think it depends on the storyline. For me, it depends on the storyline. Like, I want to... Like, you can have vignettes and promos and not ever be in the ring, and I'm entertained. I mean, I've watched... The thing that kept me watching Raw, besides you coming to my house for dinner every Monday night,
I'm like a cat. You feed me once.
For the first year was that Elias segment, and Elias never wrestled, and he would just hit that strum, cuts that promo, gets that heat, and you're entertained, you're fulfilled for a little bit. You're not pissed off that you just watched 3 hours of trash, and so that's where I think for me, if it's telling a story, then I don't need that much wrestling.
See I'm gonna cut to some new age wrestling just because it's a recent example. But Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, when they had that match, that was inside the house. Inside the house,
yeah, it was weird.
It was horrible. But those two are great. Like they do great promos. But when it came to that match was horrible. The storyline was horrible. Sister Abigail being burned down in the house. It was so stupid. The storyline was stupid. But they could have made that so much better than it was.
Well, you see
If they book it
somebody
correctly.
like take somebody like Miz, for example.
Yeah.
Started off, Miz was one of the worst professional wrestlers, and you can tell he's going through
he's
this.
pretty bad, yeah.
But he could talk.
Yeah.
And he could talk very well.
Yeah.
And that kind of made up for his lack of wrestling ability for the first few years of his thing.
Yeah.
And then with the more practice, the wrestling ability came up to snuff,
Yeah.
and the talking came up to stuff, and then he became this all-around decent worker.
Yeah, and now he's in a really good position right now.
He is in a great position.
I
And
think. Sorry. I think like a lot of the fans nowadays at the point wrestling is, I think we're thirsty for the old days, the old, the
I think so,
talkers,
too.
the promos, the flashy stuff, and we just kind of miss that. So we'll forgive a little bit of, bad wrestling here and there if you can, like you said, you talk well. But if you can wrestle well and entertain me and the promo is bad, I'm still in it.
Well, 'cause
you know what I mean?
I mean, we've talked-
Because at the end of the day, I just want to see some
Yeah,
wrestling.
you can
I
tell
wanna
a
see some
story
good
in the
wrestling.
ring too.
Yeah, exactly.
you can.
It's
Yeah.
it's just how the story's told, and I just want a good story.
so what do you think about the way that I don't know if all three of you have seen Cody Rhodes' new promo?
Yes, I have.
That where he's standing in front of the black, but it's just a black drop. He kind of comes out of the shadows and kind of tells his story.
I like
and
it.
it's kind of a new way, but also harken back to the old way of doing it pre-taped. But the way he tells that story, phenomenal. Like,
Yeah.
he is such a good talker.
It was
in
a
that.
2-minute video. I think
got me
2.5
pumped.
minutes, and yeah,
It got
and
me
I'm
pumped, yeah.
I'm jacked. Yeah, because
I'm ready to see this match.
and I've seen him wrestle
seen a
once
few,
or
yeah.
twice.
You've seen him a couple times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when he makes such a bold statement about talking about killing the Attitude Era, killing the Attitude, that's something that automatically is going to draw everyone in.
Right.
Because it's beloved. Everyone loves the Attitude
Right.
Era. So you have someone that's coming in 2019, was it almost what? 20,
Oh, we're less than a month away.
Yeah.
Exactly. Less than a month away, and like cuts a promo like that, even more tickets, even more people clicking to see what's going to happen.
And I think when you hear the way he tells that story, people are going to have some morbid curiosity of like, what are they going to do to separate them? What are they going to do to kill the Attitude Era?
yeah, and yeah.
How are they going to separate themselves from the 3-hour drug of what we watched last Monday? What are they going to do to separate themselves in a way that I'm going to consistently keep paying my money to Cody Rhodes, to AEW, to Kenny Omega? How am I going to keep shelling out that money? What are they going to do?
I'll tell you what he's going to do. He's going to bring out Val Venus and the Godfather, and it's going to be a crazy... No,
But they're going to literally kill those two guys. They're literally going to kill those two guys. I'm very interested to see how that goes. And I know we kind of use this segment to kind of talk about current wrestling a little bit. I do like the style of promos that you'll see in the 70s and 80s, where there's not those time constraints of you've got to hit your marks in 35 seconds, 40 seconds, get in, get out. We've got 3 hours of show that we got to fill. A lot of times you'll see them struggling to fill time, so they'll let their guys talk and tell a story for 8 minutes.
Well, that's why I actually found myself watching old Dusty Rhodes promos this morning, and I think it was the Funky Monkey promo.
Oh yeah, funky like a monkey.
Yeah, and it was,
Monkey Man.
and it. I mean, I like Dusty, and I like his promos, and I was just very intrigued. And then on Twitter today, somebody actually posted it was Dusty's last on TV promo with WWE,
right?
Where he shoved his hand in Stephanie McMahon's face and got in Triple H's face, and I was getting jacked. I was like, "Yeah, look at this dad stepping up for his boys."
Oh, that was when he had Dusty and
Goldust and Cody were in the ring, and apparently it was a shoot promo. Like Dusty was getting some stuff off his chest and got up in Triple H's face and gave Stephanie the hand, and apparently that was the last time he was on TV.
Yeah.
I was listening to Jim Cornette's podcast, and he was talking about that
really?
the other day, and now,
Dude, it was awesome.
Then Dusty was never on TV again.
Well, Dusty
he told a story.
Oh yeah, it was great. It was a great moment. I mean, yeah, we all get
Solid.
psyched over it.
Yeah, what about Ric Flair? What made him such a good promo? I know that we have a resident Ric Flair lover right here beside me. Tell me, what made you? Why does the hip hop community buy into Ric Flair so much?
Honestly, I think it's his look, his character.
Is it the swag? The
It's
swag.
It is the swag. Like everything, the man believes it. The man lived it. He looks like $1 million. Like he did everything right. Like he has a word that's associated with him. If someone says Ric Flair, what does everyone else say?
Drip.
That was good.
Oh, I was the only
Close.
person.
Close. Woo. Yeah, thank you. You literally thought it was Drip.
I thought we were talking about that new song. Oh my! Look at the time.
Wow. You just showed it.
It's like a kid in glasses yells out the wrong answer.
Drip. Confidence. There was a lot of confidence behind that too.
Ric Flair drip. You know, like the new song.
Like that song.
You're not helping.
All right. Well. All right, so our first matchup of the evening, Greenhorn Mike, you have got a really fun matchup between Eddie Guerrero and Chris Jericho for the Cruiserweight Championship in, I believe it was Fall Brawl.
1997 Fall Brawl War Games, Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Ooh, whoa!
Cool. I didn't realize
Yes.
I was
that planned?
I was almost blacked out in Winston last night watching this match later in the hotel.
Oh, yeah?
room.
Do you remember anything of it?
You didn't
I
throw
watched it
did you?
again on the way home.
It's all right. So starts out, it's 2 rings, and it's so that's the announcers go over War Games, and it's 2 rings back to back. And I'll hit on this later. But so visually, you're kind of intrigued. They kind of start going at their own pace, trying to establish it. Eddie was doing it. I didn't know who was a heel, who was a face to start, and because Eddie was getting some cheers, some boos. Chris was getting a little more cheers, but he kept going to the ref, like complaining that Chris was like grabbing his hair or whatever. Later on, Eddie grabs Chris's hair, but so you could tell that Eddie was trying to get in Chris's head. The first 7 minutes, pretty slow but entertaining, very technical kind of wrestling. The one thing I liked, I've never seen arm drags like this. Like, I don't know, like I that's what it's called, right?
Yeah, that's
Where
an
they're
arm drag.
slinging-
Yeah.
And I made a note that, I might have seen arm drags in wrestling since I've been watching it somewhat frequently, but not to this intent. Like, I was just like really entertained just by the arm drags, but for the first 7 minutes, it's really just kind of holds, technical kind of stuff. 7 minutes in.
So you'll see with those arm drags, you'll see Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was very famous for that similar deep arm drag, but also that is a very big style in Mexican professional wrestling. That arm drag style.
I really liked it. It was refreshing.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's a little bit different, and it's a little bit more high flying, even though it's a very simple move to do.
So about 7 minutes in, we finally get like a big toss. Eddie gets tossed up in the air, pretty high, over Chris's head. Throat hits the top rope. He's laying around, and then Chris does they called it a lion salt, but it was a moonsault.
Yeah. He later does that in WWE as well. That becomes one of his quote signature moves.
Yeah, no, it was really good, and that was kind of, and again, I'll kind of mention this later, but that's what I was maybe more expecting when I saw the names Cruiserweight. You hear the announcers kind of talking back and forth about their styles, so I was expecting a little bit more of that. Eddie finally gets some big offense in, but it's mostly these huge chin locks. It was a surfboard hold, they called it. Chris is selling it like a mother, man. It looked like he was in pain, and it's a pretty impressive move if you can just be the one absorbing that move.
He's a very vocal professional wrestler. Jericho.
I think that's what makes him good and good for decades too. Is he kind of tells that story.
Stood the test of time.
Yeah, man.
He always has the good ask him ref and stuff like that. Like little things, like you'll hear like noises he makes in the ring that kind of bring you into it, that makes you feel like it is more of a shoot than it is.
Yeah. And then 12:30, Eddie gets Chris into an upside down backbreaker. Chris then reverses the backbreaker and then hits this monster slam where Eddie's face hits the back. Super impressive. I've never seen anything like that, and so that was really, really cool move. So definitely, if you're going to watch this match, you can maybe fast forward to that part. But well, I'm just saying, no, it was just very good, and it's not anything that I, who have not seen a lot of professional wrestling, had seen. So I mean, no. And then right afterwards, I started laughing out loud. Chris knocks Eddie on. Eddie's walking across the top rope. Chris knocks him off, hits his nuts. He's just sitting there, and then Chris just goes and starts jacking the rope up and down. I was just losing. I was laying in bed watching it the first time, and I was just cracking up. And Amanda's wondering why I'm laughing so much, and I showed her. She didn't find it as funny as I did.
He throws up the Bronco hand there.
Yeah,
a little bit.
It was
like, no.
It was a bit of comedy into the professional. It was just fun. 620. Jericho tosses a huge spinning leg lariat.
Oh, that's one of the
dude.
moves
That
I
was
made. Jesus.
again another move that I don't think I've actually seen it, but if I have, it wasn't as visual or vibrant as that one was.
Don't use it anymore. Actually,
It's a sick move. Some people, there's a couple wrestlers nowadays that could use that, and I would be very happy to watch it. So we're getting to the end of the match. Jericho slams Eddie a couple times. What were those called? Suplexes? No, he's going for a massive. He does a bunch of slams, gets him on the top rope. He's about to suplex him. Eddie counters it, and the first 2 times I watched this, it looks like Eddie lands on his head. I got lost for a second because then Eddie goes, and Jericho's pretending to be hurt, and Eddie goes to like do another move. And I'm like, and the announcer's like, "Oh, he reversed it. Jericho's hurting." And I'm like, but I saw Eddie just land on his head. I saw Eddie land on his head. So slow motion replay. Watched it a couple more times, pausing, playing to watch it. I think what they were going for was more Eddie reversing it into like a spear, where he speared Jericho into the ground a little bit. But it really just looks like Eddie lands on his head. But then he goes up, does a massive frog splash, ends the match. Overall, it's really good.
I love that finishing.
Did you enjoy
finish.
Yeah, I thought it had a good pace. The holds were interesting. In my notes, I made a big bold letters. I was kind of upset. So they've referenced both rings, and they didn't use them.
Well, see, that was for the main event.
No, but they referenced that they could use both rings.
Really?
And I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to see Eddie Guerrero go off one, do some crazy stuff. Both wrestlers sold very well, which makes the match more visually appealing. It makes you buy into it, that it's actually real and that the kind of stuff's going on. I mentioned the arm drags already. Overall, it was a little bit counter to what I was expecting, though. So I was expecting a little more high flying, a little bit more lion salts and that sort of stuff, and it was really more kind of ground and pound, older school, maybe not old school wrestling, I guess, but just more actual wrestling.
And I think, like with Eddie Guerrero, a lot of his stuff, he can go, and Jericho's the same way. They're very technical wrestlers. They can be very high flying wrestlers. It depends on what kind of story they want to tell in the ring. And I think that both of them being like that, they could wrestle a more technical style and not have to and they could pepper in the high flying stuff to make it a little bit more impactful.
And you get
for the
more
viewer.
pop. Yeah, you get more pop that way, at least from the viewer.
Right. So as a viewer, you're sitting at home, you're like, oh, that was cool. Then it kind of slows down. And there's an ebb and flow to those kind of match styles.
And they're probably trying to show that they can do more than just high fly as well.
Right. What did you have? You've seen Chris Jericho nowadays.
Actually, I mean, just a little bit.
Yeah,
not,
a little
not
bit.
A ton.
But it's a little bit different. I appreciate Chris Jericho. He's one of my all-time favorites because he's able to reinvent himself, his style, his character. Every time it's a little bit different. Like you can have a high-flying Jericho back in the older days, and nowadays he's more technical. Now he's even more brawling style.
Well, he adapts well to whoever he's wrestling too.
Right, and that's a very that's a great sign that he is a versatile wrestler.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I have a question.
Yes.
What do you guys think about WCW using or underutilizing these two performers? Do you think they were underutilized in the WCW? When you have two great workers like Jericho and Guerrero, but then you're using like a Hall and a Kevin Nash in the main event or something that people may have been like, oh, this is getting a little stale.
Yeah, and I mean that is a very common argument for one of the reasons why WCW was not able to succeed is because they were not able to build these new superstars. Yeah. And you only have a handful of wrestlers, maybe DDP, Booker T, were able to be built that were a part of the vanguard and not the old guard.
Yeah.
Some of these guys, like Booker ended up being a humongous superstar for WCW.
He did. It took him a while. Though.
It took him a while.
Until like the 90s, like late 90s, like
they
99.
They did not have that formula in place that maybe WWF at the time did of being able to hotshot a superstar into superstardom and sustain that. You see that with Steve Austin. Steve Austin kind of had an aha moment with that 316 promo. And once he did that, a lot of people kind of got a hold and they're like, ooh, I want to see what this guy does next. Yeah. They were able to they kind of had to do it as well because at that time, they had lost all of their big superstars to WCW.
Yeah.
Their hands were tied. They had to create new stars. Yeah. And luckily, that new class of people they had was your Mick Foley, you had The Rock, you had Steve Austin, you had some of the biggest names in professional wrestling were created out of that vacuum where all of their big stars went.
So I guess WCW just got complacent.
They did. And I mean, from a business standpoint, it is smart to play the greatest hits when you're a concert or a rock band. You're playing the greatest hits. You want to keep the fans happy by doing that. But then there is a ceiling to that where you cannot evolve your product anymore when every single storyline between those old wrestlers has been hashed and rehashed since the 1980s.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Mike, I'm going to tell you about my conspiracy theory about watching this real quick.
Here we go.
I watched it this morning.
Wait, can you give the name of?
Yeah, so this is the pale side of the ring, starring Aaron Varnum, because I'm really pale. My conspiracy theory is I started watching this match this morning, and I'm drinking my coffee, and I swear to God, I hadn't taken any drugs or any mind-altering thing. And I look at the match, and I'm like, there's something off about this match. My theory, and I have seen this a couple times. I see this on WWE's Hulu, and when they replay episodes of Raw, they slightly speed up. And I'm not talking noticeably unless you're a video production person. They slightly speed up. Mike is going to get another beer right now or take a dump.
I was going to cough.
You're going to go cough off. Thank you. They slightly speed it up. If you've got a podcast, and I'm sure you guys do it for us, you have it that 1.2 or that 1.3 speed where it's just slightly, just maybe a little bit if you weren't looking for it. I think they do that for their officially uploaded stuff because this was a WWE YouTube thing. I don't know if you guys agree with me.
I noticed that.
So I haven't noticed. All right, so I usually catch up on Raw on Tuesday because I work late Monday nights. I don't get out till 3 in the morning. So I usually watch it on Tuesday or Wednesday whenever they release it. When I'm having my coffee, I'll kind of watch it, skim it, and you're saying it sped up? All the
just a little bit. And honestly, I looked it up, and there's one other person online there's one other person that believes this conspiracy theory with me, and I felt I'm looking at it and I'm just it feels something off during the slower portions of the match where they speed it up just a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. If you guys agree with me, please don't make me feel like a crazy guy. This is InfoWars.
Well, I was going to say there's a million flat earthers out there and there's 2 of you.
Right. There's only 2 of us, so maybe not. Mike, give me the social media update for the week. First, I have to shout out. I met a guy on Friday night at a burlesque show. He has the Salty Tuesday podcast. His name is Jared Cox. Thank you, Jared, for listening to $2 Steak and also following us on Twitter this week. Yeah, nice. He was one of our followers. Give me a little bit about the social media update, sir.
So I will admit, as I mentioned last week, this is more of a Twitter update because I've deferred social media, Instagram to Tolbert. I honestly had never had an Instagram, and I don't update it, so I can't give any update on there. But Twitter. So a little slow week. I got back to actually doing a job again, and so I didn't have much time to troll the internet and tweet out things. But I did establish the $2 Steak official hashtag is now cheap meat tweets.
I enjoy that. It's a good hashtag. It's a good hashtag.
Yeah, so anytime I remember it, when I'm trolling and making witty comments on things, I try to hashtag cheap meat tweets. So pretty happy with that. We're down to 24 followers. I think a couple of those bots found out they don't like wrestling as much as we do.
But we got some real followers.
But you know what? We got some actual followers staying strong. We get occasional interaction between Tolbert, Aaron, myself, and Travis.
Yeah.
So feel free to tweet at us.
Thank you, Travis, for the artwork.
If it comes back with a funny wrestling-inspired pun or reference, that was probably Aaron doing that, not me. So our best tweet of the week was a reply to Dash Wilder's picture. So on Raw, they tried to, I don't know, shame our boys and say that they're shaving each other's backs, and we don't really find that too upsetting or anything. So everybody on the Twitter world was confused by it.
It was like a homophobic thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where,
as a rugby team, we strongly believe in helping your boy out. You know what I mean?
It's shaving their back.
It's 2019. Nothing wrong with shaving somebody's back if they need help. And anyway, so he posted the picture, and I was like, well, to us down south, that just looks like it's just rubbing sunscreen on, because I've rubbed so much sunscreen on Aaron's back in the last couple of years at the beach. It's literally a half a bottle. So that was our most impressive tweet of the week. Our best organic tweet was actually the episode 6 dropping tweet. So it got some clicks. And so most of the time, our engagements and impressions are going to spike when we're replying to famous people, because they have a lot of followers and people are going to look at it.
He's going to be teaching a course.
Yeah, the organic stuff is more where we're just tweeting out to the world and our 24 followers and seeing if we can get some clicks with some hashtags and stuff. So
cheap meat tweets.
Yeah, so if we can get cheap meat tweets trending somehow, I don't know how, but that'll get our impressions up. But overall, it was slow. We're still looking for a sponsor to promote our cheap meat tweets. So if anybody's out there listening and would like to be the official sponsor of cheap meat tweeting, hit me up, send me a DM. I'll give you my Venmo handle.
It goes down in the DM.
I can't say I won't try to double that money gambling. Did I tell you I won the Kentucky Derby?
And then lost it?
And then when they DQ'd it, I lost my money.
Oh, no, that's how gambling works.
I'm not the only person, but I was a little upset by that. But anyway,
that's how gambling works, dude.
I don't know, man. I don't know horse racing. I just know I lost.
Damn. Sad.
All right, so for our second matchup of the evening, the strong style with Cookie. Cookie, you had the Great Suzuki against he who cannot be named, Wild Pegasus / Chris Benoit.
Why'd you name him?
I know, man.
Gosh, I had this good Voldemort joke that I was going to use.
All right, go ahead.
You still tell it.
You can still tell it.
All right, so Voldemort starts like, well, no, because it kind of lost his kid.
Anyway, well, tell me about the matchup.
The matchup, a very young Chris Benoit, Wild Pegasus, aka toothless. Still toothless.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I was kind of surprised by that. I kind of thought that was like
I made that note. I was like, missing tooth.
It took me like 7 minutes into the match to realize, he didn't have a tooth.
Yeah, I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
He must have got hit by a chair. Anyway. No, nobody?
Yeah, I laughed.
Anyway, it started off very slow. Another technical match. But I found myself early on in the match going, wrap it up, boys, because I was like, they're just, doing holds, doing a lot of chain wrestling, trying to build up to like these big pops. But once I saw the Great Suzuki do his springboard moonsault outside of the ring, I was like, okay, wait a minute, don't speed it up, boys. Slow it down now. I like it. It's starting to get a little bit more interesting. I didn't realize that the Great Suzuki was a high flyer, and I didn't realize how good of a high flyer he was until I saw that move, and then I saw he had another high spot where he I don't even know, he did a missile drop kick to the outside, and looks like he shattered his hip bone when he did that too, because he was holding his hip.
He was grabbing that thing
for about 5 minutes.
It's one of those like Family Guy
Yeah, he just sits there for a little bit longer than you want him to.
It just looked like it stung, like you stubbed your toe.
It did. It just
the mat was only like a Coleman camper sleep mat.
And I made a note about that. They only had like 2 mats out, like just 2. So like if
looked
he
terrible.
missed it, like what was gonna happen? Bang their head against the cement, and I guess it's over.
Yeah, that mat was tiny, dude. It was like 2 feet wide.
Yeah.
They actually did in that matchup the one spot that they always tease but never do. The suplex from inside the ring to outside the ring.
I made a note of that too. I was like, no, he's not. Oh, no, he's not.
He did it.
He definitely did it, and it was like
once
half
they
of his
hit that
body.
gear, they kept that gear going, and that's what I enjoyed. So like once they hit like a superplex to the outside, I was just like, okay, this match is gonna get really interesting now. And it looked like Chris Benoit was out maybe for a little bit, maybe for like a 30 seconds.
That
or
may have been
like
his like
maybe
first
he was just
concussion
selling
out of all.
I know. Out of
Foreshadowing.
the 200 that he had probably in his
Christ.
whole lifestyle. You saw a little bit of his signature style though. The headbutts, beautiful German suplexes from both of the guys. And not even just German suplexes. He had I don't even know what you would call it. Looks like a full Nelson suplex as well.
So that's a dragon suplex.
Dragon suplex. A dragon suplex. So obviously the Great Suzuki was a high flyer in this match. I think he was a little bit more entertaining than Chris Benoit just because of his moveset.
Right.
But while Pegasus ended up winning in the end off of
So it was a
what was
gut
it exactly?
wrench superplex.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you call that
So
move?
it was like what Ted DiBiase used to do, just a regular old gut wrench suplex
From the top rope.
and they ended it on that. So it was a superplex version of that. It was pretty interesting that they decided that was going to be the finish.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was like his finishing move back in Japan, but it looked pretty cool.
It did look pretty
But
cool.
I mean, it wasn't like something that I'd be like, you know what, that's going to end the match. So it was kind of cool that.
Well, honestly, I thought the match was going to end with his flying headbutt.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's probably it because that's probably his finishing move back in the day. But another note that I made was how big of an audience there was.
Huge, man. It was
audiences.
packed. Every Japanese wrestling event I've watched, they have
Packed houses.
I made notes, packed houses all the way to the top seats.
Yes.
And then the ring is surrounded by 15 photographers. Why is there always so many photographers?
because they treat it like a sport.
But is there that many wrestling publications? And
it's
are those
regular newspapers too, man.
Wow.
Regular newspapers
Wow.
are giving the results of these wrestling matches
They
in Japan.
love their wrestling.
And
So I'm realizing that slowly and surely.
So
They
I
love their wrestling.
made a note because I'm really starting to enjoy watching Cookie's matches because one, can't understand what the announcers are saying, so it's background noise and you just hear the crowd just cheering and going at it.
Exactly.
And it's refreshing just to watch it and just kind of it's almost like you're a part of it.
Right.
Yeah, it really honestly is. And another thing that I saw was a lot of wrestlers that are pretty popular. Like basically
I made
basically
a note
grew
of
into
that
their
too.
popularity.
Like Jushin Liger.
Jushin Liger,
So this
Taka
was-
Michinoku,
Right.
my man. I was like, that's Taka.
Choppy Pee Pee.
Yeah, Choppy.
Oh,
Val
God.
Venus.
So
Shout out to Val Venus.
this was actually the finals in a tournament. So
Really?
and
Okay.
they were all kind of coming out to see the finals of this tournament to see like
okay.
who was going to win this, and it's pretty neat. I'm going to tell you, man. Great Suzuki. His story's pretty neat. When he started off, he tried out to be a wrestler, to become a wrestler for the New Japan Dojo. So what they do is the way that they do it there is you train you live at this dojo. You're basically, it's called a young boy, and you're being I wouldn't say a slave, but you're basically you are training all the time at this dojo. You're training all the time. You're cleaning the dojo. You're like carrying people's stuff.
Yeah.
Are they getting paid?
They're getting paid. Yeah.
It's like that training sequence in Kill Bill too.
Yeah, but you're just basically your whole life revolves around this dojo thing. Like when my friend David went over there, like David was like, we have to train every morning. Like it is wild. Like I would send him a message. He'd send me a message. He's like, I've been up for like 18 hours already because there's that time difference. And he's like, dude, I have gone through 3 training sessions. I've cleaned everything. Like I'm exhausted by the
It's a
time.
completely different landscape than the Americas.
And I like that. It's better than going to Hillbilly Joe's garage and learning how to take a bump.
yeah.
Like here, you're actually learning psychology behind it. You're like, that's why that style is so much different than American style of professional wrestling, and they take it so much more serious than they do here in America. Great Suzuki tried out, did not get in, so he decided
Kind of surprised.
Yeah, did not get in. He trained elsewhere, started his own promotion. That promotion became big. He became this wrestler. Dave Meltzer rated this match 5 stars, so that's pretty cool. This
Really?
is a 5-star match.
That's
from
a
Dave
5-star
Meltzer.
match.
That is
Wow.
a 5-star match.
Wow. Okay.
Ooh.
So I don't
Sounds like
know.
it's not gonna be a 5 cookie, man.
Might not be 5
that was
cookies.
not, I was gonna say that is not 5 cookies.
What-
It like because half of the match, it is chain wrestling.
It
and
is.
It was.
It's a little
It got a little slow and it was a little boring. But once they hit that mark, that's when the match started flowing and it started flying.
How many cookies?
I'm gonna have to give it 3.5 cookies.
That's fine with me. You're not like. This is subjective.
Yeah, but maybe Dave Meltzer.
Meltzer.
He
Yeah.
might listen to this one day and be like, "Oh, that
He's
cookie
never
king."
gonna listen.
He's
to
never.
You know,
Dude,
you
you,
guys are-
Hey,
did
he's
you
got
see
so
the
much
Kerry
more.
Von Erich thing? Like, his office is just stacks of paper.
It's disgusting.
That guy, I thought I was on Twitter a lot. That guy's on Twitter all the time.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's going to wrestling events 24/7 too.
He's not
so.
going to listen to this podcast.
Darn it. Maybe
Oh.
one day.
Maybe you know what? I'll spam him a bunch. I'm going to cheat me tweet that guy.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
when
know.
they do
Dave Meltzer?
when they do a dark side of the ring of $2 steak, a pro wrestling podcast, they'll interview Dave, and he's like, "Yeah, I've never listened to it. Listened to him once, and that was when the pale side of the ring episode." Anyways, Cookie, how do you feel?
Mm-hmm.
Can you separate what happened later for Chris Benoit? Can you still find enjoyment watching him wrestle, knowing what he did later?
Now, when I look back at his matches, I think I look at him with a finer, just a finer eye, I guess is the word I'll use. But like, I look at it differently. Everything that I see, especially like those huge bumps that he would take, like some of them to the outside, those diving headbutts sometimes where they would hit a little too close and they were like a little tighter than I think they should have been. Like all those bumps that he took, I think I look at him and I'm just like, man, I wonder if that's it.
Yeah.
Or I wonder if that's it.
Was
Like, I wonder like what
It was a flying headbutt. Like, you
Well, he
literally-
did
yeah.
that multiple times. He did it a lot, but
is
like,
his signature move. Yeah.
but still, you can't blame it all on CTE.
I
There was a
can't,
psychosis
You
behind him
can,
too.
Yeah.
but I mean not to get like real technical, but like the anatomy of it is like your brain literally starts rotting away.
Yeah.
And so you lose. I mean, it's just like dementia. So you start losing the
yourself.
faculties and emotions and that sort of stuff. And yeah, so
And plus, rampant steroid use too is not
well,
going to help.
no, but that doesn't affect the brain as much. So yeah, I'm like Cookie. I watched the match, and I went, oh god. And then you're watching it, and you're seeing those bumps, and you're like, shit. Like, is this what? I mean, it's 20 years of this what led to what he did, and you're never you can't say it, but I don't know. Yeah, I still enjoyed the match, but yeah, you're looking at it. For me anyway, you're yeah, it's in the back of your mind, like, oh god.
Because I mean,
It's not that you feel guilty, but you're just kind of like, there's something in your stomach that
It takes
just
some
doesn't
away,
sit
yeah.
right.
it does.
Yeah.
It does take some away from it.
I'll
Because
tell
I
you,
used to
man.
love him. I used to love Chris Benoit.
I was the same way before all of that happened. Like the day before, I would have
Yeah.
said greatest wrestler of all time,
One of
like
them.
sort
Yeah,
of thing.
absolutely.
Like he couldn't talk. He was such a phenomenal worker and all that stuff. I bought his DVD. It's probably somewhere over here in my collection, and I had it. And I'd watch it all the time. I'm like, this is what wrestling is. I loved watching him in the Four Horsemen and all that stuff in WCW. The day that happened, and, at first they do like they do a tribute show on
Yeah.
Raw, and I'm like, I felt all
kinds of emotion, man, that night.
and then once it started coming out, man,
But yeah, that's
What-
when it just completely changed
it
everything.
completely blew my mind. Like that one was one of the most, like, it was a kick to the gut that not everything is roses
and it was already,
flowers.
for me, it was already a kick to the gut because his best friend had already died the
Yeah.
year before or 2 years before,
Yeah.
whatever it was. And then to have another person that I really enjoyed watching, what you think is one thing, and then the next day or so you figure out it's something else. It's just like, oh, I don't know what to do now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, after those two died, it it made it real to me. Like I was like, yeah, I think wrestling is real, and there's some things behind it that I don't know about. There are dark sides of the ring.
Oh,
There is a dark side to this, and I'm like, I wonder what's going on. I start looking into it a little bit more. I think this is honestly something where I really grew up. I really grew up after those two passed away because it became real.
And like I seeing stuff while I was traveling, getting video of stuff, even at like local promotions. Like I'm so lucky to have had David as the guy that like kept me away from all of that stuff and like did not want me. So David had already seen it, all that stuff. David had never done any of that stuff, and David was like almost like a big brother to me. And like he's like, you don't want to hang out with and there that often. You need to get away from there. And I'd like look, and there's like an independent wrestler doing it like huge lines of like drugs, like just opiates, like right there, like just doing pain pills. And I'm like, what is going on there? He's like, just keep walking. We're gonna go over here. We're gonna dress and do all of our stuff over here. We don't need to like do all that. But like, there's a culture behind it, and I think WWE has done very well to separate itself from that culture these days by having a performance center, by having all this stuff where they're not having to go out and live their life on the road like they did back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
They live like rock stars. They live like touring like rock stars.
That's how they used to live.
Right.
They used to live like that.
That's how they used to live.
And now they run it like a business. And I respect WWE for doing that.
Yeah.
It takes away some of the like, like, ooh, what's going to happen to this guy? But then again, hopefully in 20 years, we're not going to have a rash of wrestlers that like I grew up with literally
dying in their 30s and 40s.
People that we're watching now are dying in their 40s and let's hope that's kind of a step in the right direction at least.
Absolutely.
So now this episode's not as funny and happy as our other episodes.
Serious now.
So let's go to the segment of the evening to hopefully lighten the mood. The high spot. The high spot with Tolbert. Tolbert, this week you have my boys, the fabulous ones, against Wyndham and Rotunda. Tell me a little bit about your matchup. First off, tell me how much you love the fabulous ones.
You mean the Chippendale dancers?
Oh,
because that's what they were.
they're
Chippendale
amazing.
dancers.
Oh God, I wouldn't say I love them. I'd say I admire them. But it starts off. This is in Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm sure.
Sure. It's in Texas. Fine, it's in Texas. Arena show, packed house. Wyndham and Rotunda come out first, shoot a little promo. They're in their like varsity kind of jacket style, and they're first glance like, whoa, these guys are kind of big. Like they're beefy, they're tall, they're really tall, and they didn't really come off as heels or bad guys. Really, they were just
they were faces. They were
they came out and they're like, hey, we'll accept any challenger. We're here to fight.
The noble face.
Yeah, they're like, we've earned this. We're here. And then I guess they get called out by the fabulous ones.
You start hearing ZZ Top.
Yeah. And they're like, all right, we'll take you on.
Yes.
And as soon as that ZZ Top hits, the ladies go. It's just lady screams. Like, shrieks,
Oh, they love
dude.
it. They love it.
Shrieks.
What were they wearing?
All right. So the fabulous ones come out. First of all, blonde. Blonde kind of like.
Tan and blonde.
Tan and blonde. One of them has a mullet, kind of like the dude from Dumb and Dumber, Lloyd, kind of. Like he's kind of shaggy.
I think that's Steve Kern.
That
was Steve Kern.
Yeah. It's a little more cap, but he's got kind of like the shaggy, like, I'll fuck you up kind of mullet. And the other one, he's rocking a mullet too. It's a little more tight, a curly mullet.
So the other one was Stan Lane,
Yeah,
our
Stan Lane.
boy from Greensboro / Myrtle Beach, who was in the Midnight Express.
Okay.
So they come out leopard print bottoms. Leopard print bottoms.
Not just bottoms though; they were speedos.
Speedos, yes, yeah. Leopard print with suspenders to hold up the speedos. White bow
God forbid those sag.
You don't want those falling out.
and bow ties, white bow ties. Of
course, why not?
High on the neck, bow ties.
Business up top, party on the bottom.
Oh yeah. So they come stomping out. They're like, "Let's go, boys! We'll do this the Fabulous Ones almost said Rock and Roll Express."
Well, so here's the deal: the Fabulous
Yeah.
Ones, when they were created for in Memphis, right? Mm-hmm. They were created by like Jerry Lawler and those guys. They came up with that prototype of the Pretty Boy rock and roll style tag team. So you see a lot of these tag teams after the Fabulous Ones. So the Fabulous Ones were like the first. Mm-hmm. Then you start seeing the Rock and Roll Express. You start seeing the Fantastics. You start seeing the Midnight Rockers, who was Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. A lot of those tag teams saw how successful it was to get two pretty boys in that ring, and like the women are gonna eat them alive. You know, like
they're grabbing at them. They're like, they're
Grabbing
going
those
crazy,
suspenders.
screaming.
so with the Fabulous Ones, they realized with them that they debuted these guys with those music videos. We showed that music video a couple weeks ago, where it's just disgusting shots, a little homoerotic. You've got these shots of these two guys like back to back in a hot tub with like drinking like champagne
Yeah, they're like in
together.
a hay barn, just like shirtless and wranglers.
Why are you there shirtless in your wrestling trunks?
God, they knew how to market to the women and make the men absolutely hate these guys.
Yeah.
So there's an air of homophobia with this that maybe you were not getting from your rough and tumble tag teams,
Actually, there's a shot of the crowd, and it made me laugh out loud. I rewound it a couple times. I think it's like, I don't know, it's right. It takes them a little bit to get to the ring, get to the crowd to do their thing. And it starts off with everybody in the ring pushing, talking to the ref. I love the old school where the ref like pats the wrestlers down.
Yeah.
I wish they still did that. He come in the ring, pats him down. Okay, huh? Yeah, oh, good here. Yeah. But it cuts to a shot of like two guys in trucker hats and like flannels. I was like, that would be me and Varnum nowadays if we were like down the street at the VFW or the Armory, and they're in their seats and they're just heckling. You can tell they're just heckling the back.
Hey, pretty boy.
Yeah, and they're just like, yeah. And it was
You think you are, pretty boy?
it was a wonderful shot. But it starts with a lot of chaos kind of in the ring, pushing, shoving. Starts off kind of just, some haymakers and stuff. They finally get the ring cleared. In this match, Mike mentioned how bored he was with this match when we got here.
Oh, he couldn't watch it.
No, I wasn't bored. I was so annoyed with the quality of the video.
Yeah, it was kind of low quality.
Aaron gave it was just a bad video. I'm sure there was another match that you could have gave that had better quality.
Guys.
I enjoyed the match. It was a long match because there is a little bit of chain wrestling, a lot of holds. Yeah. One of my favorite moves, I don't really see utilized that much in tag team wrestling or wrestling at all, is when they try to whip out of the headlock and they just drag them along with them.
I
love that move. I love that move. And there's a couple sequences of that, reversed with some holds, off the rope action. It picks up with a ref distraction, and I love the tag team wrestling in this. They distract the ref, someone will slide in, do a little, hop off the top, chop them, when they've got them in a hold. A lot of trickery, switching out, like they didn't really tag, they just kind of switch out, the ref turns around, they're there. And I just love that, like, hey, ref over here, But
a lot of people nowadays kind of take away. You see in WWF where maybe tag team wrestling, or WWE where tag team wrestling is not as important as it should be. There is an art.
Really?
There is an art to good tag team wrestling to make it very entertaining and stuff like that. Little things like that where you're in on something that maybe the referee's not in on. And you're like, no, did you not see that ref? Like, that kind of brings you into it and makes that all the more special. And I think I know. I will say it time and time again. I think there is money in tag team wrestling.
Oh, yeah. Which is to see the partner react. He gets him in a hold, and before you even know it, he's up on the top rope jumping off, to pull some spot real quick and roll out, before, it takes like 2 seconds. It's just that. I love it. But it ends with a ref distraction. I think Rotunda gets one of the Fabulous Ones in a hold while the ref is distracted. Wyndham comes off the top rope. What was the finishing move? Kind of like an elbow drop off the top rope, and pins him. It's kind of like a switch out because Rotunda was in the ring, but Wyndham finishes the pin. They don't really tag. They kind of just distract the ref. Ref turns around and just sees a pin, and he counts him out. And that's it right there. That's all she wrote.
So I'm excited about the HIGHKu this week.
Yeah, so actually,
we've talked about an hour, so his high is probably not as high as it usually is.
How many HIGHKus do you have this go around?
I mean, I jotted down a couple. I was in the car actually. I made Katie drive. I drove all weekend. I drove there. I had to drive all over Winston. I was in the car all weekend. So I made her drive back. I got her. I was a gentleman. I got her out of Winston, Greensboro area. Got her on the highway. Good. And then I was like, all right, you can take over. And I just kind of jotted down HIGHKus and watched matches on the way back.
Nice.
Slightly hungover. It was kind of hard to write a HIGHKu about. I mean, the Fabulous Ones are, it's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, that's
theirs is tucked tight. It's tucked very tight because of the...
The wrestling's great. The wrestling is great, but just too easy of a target.
I mean, like, that's why I give you these things. I want low-hanging
fruit. He wants the cheap...
Perfect.
He wants the cheap pop.
Right, I'll give you the cheap pop.
Yeah,
give me a cheap pop.
Thank you.
I was gonna go for the psychology of the crowd.
I wanted 5 cages last week. The last thing. You should know that I want cheap HIGHKus.
Cheap pops. All right, mullets ready to clash. Chippendale B team struts around. The 80s were great.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you. Let's hear the highbrow one.
The highbrow. Trucker hats and beer. Ladies scream for stripper boys. It's time to rumble.
How is that?
That's the highbrow. You know what? They're both great. I actually really appreciate.
I like those. Yeah,
I like both.
Those are good.
Good. You're gonna become like.
Thank you. I'm gonna look at this book. I'm gonna have a book of poems.
I was just saying, when we're finished, we're gonna publish. We will publish a book of HIGHKus, and I'll tweet out the link. Maybe that's how we'll get
our money.
To promote our Twitter.
Tolbert is gonna be the poet laureate of professional wrestling. Oh, yeah. They're gonna be like, and one Christopher Tolbert comes up. Please tell us your HIGHKu about this. Cage. Sweat. Cage.
Blunts and Terry Funk.
Blunts and Terry Funk. Well, folks.
Why, Terry? Why?
Guys, we have had a great episode of $2 Steak this week. I'm really excited that, maybe this wasn't as funny as our usual episodes, but we got to talk. We had some good discussions, some stuff. Next week, we are back to some ridiculousness. I picked some stuff. No monster trucks, thank God. With Greenhorn Mike, you actually have a very interesting matchup between Steamboat and Douglas, right? So this is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Shane Douglas. They were a tag team against the Hollywood Blondes. Do you know who the Hollywood Blondes are? Yo, come on!
I didn't.
So it's Flying Brian Pillman and Steve Austin.
Okay, I've heard of those two.
When they had hair. So Steve Austin's got like long hair and he comes out and he's like a Hollywood.
Well, Brian Pillman's like the one where
he
Austin
dies as well.
Well, no, but Austin like went to his house and like
Yeah.
I thought you murdered him. Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah, so they were a phenomenal tag team in WCW back. This was like when I first started watching wrestling. They were like the best.
And so Paul Heyman's their manager, wasn't he?
For a little bit,
yeah.
So I think this, and they also had Colonel Robert Parker. I do declare, was their manager for a little bit. I didn't get to see the beginning. I don't know if they have a manager at this point. Cookie, a little change of pace that I'm really excited about for you.
I'm listening.
You have you have your first female matchup.
This is the first female match of the podcast.
So this is Joshi style. It is Alundra Blaze, who is Medusa.
Medusa, yeah.
Against Bull Nakano, who is phenomenal. Bull Nakano is what? Who's the big girl in WWE that you hate?
Nia, Tamina.
Nia and Tamina. They wish they could have been Bull Nakano. She came out. She has this amazing like mohawk. She is a badass. She is awesome. I'm excited about this match.
I can't wait.
And Tolbert has the Blackjacks. So Blackjack Mulligan and Bobby Heenan against the Crusher, the Bruiser, and the Little Bruiser, who's a midget.
You just wrote my haiku. You just basically wrote my haiku for me.
A lot of tag team wrestling next week.
There is, yeah. It should be fun. The Little Bruiser.
The Little Bruiser?
I was clicking through this thing and I'm like, holy shit, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. So I had to do it. So this is your second little person involved match.
All right.
So there you go. Folks, thank you for listening to $2 Steak, a pro wrestling podcast. We will see you next week.